Now, there's so many different ways to write headlines, and the only real way to make sure that a headline works is to test it. But sometimes we don't have that luxury, or sometimes we're just launching, we're trying to find a good headline for a product or service right away. I have a very simple rule. It's called the 3x3 rule. A 3x3 rule means this. Focus on, and they're in order of lesser to more important. So the lesser, and it's not that they're not important, they're all important. But here's what I mean. The first three, this is a 3x3. So the first of the three is the 3 greatest human goals. That means that every human being on this planet have one of these 3 goals. They either want to save or make time, effort, money. Time, effort, money. So make or save, time, effort, or money. So if your headline can do that, can speak to your audience in a way that gets them to understand in an instant that they can save or make time, effort, or money, they'll dive into your copy more. They'll be more, they want to know more about what you can do to do those 3 things. So those are the 3 greatest human goals. The second, and probably a little bit better, a little bit more important, is the 3 greatest human desires. What are the 3 greatest human desires? Now, of course, there's so many. There are more than 3, of course. We're human beings after all. But what I have found in copy, these are the 3 biggest hot buttons that people can push. They're called lust, greed, and comfort. So almost the same thing as time, effort, and money, but basically what we're talking about is lust. When we talk about lust, we don't necessarily just talk about sex. It could be about a lust for life. Weight loss is part of that. Feeling good about yourself. New Year's resolutions, things like that. Health is related to that. So lust, greed, and greed, of course, we know greed is not just about money, but it could be prestige of ownership. It could be how to increase one's status, and so on and so forth. And then finally, comfort is what can help make us more comfortable. Convenience. How can we do things easier? Maybe it is something that they're currently doing that your product will help have them do it easier, faster, more enjoyably, less painful, whatever the case is. So lust, greed, and comfort. And the final 3 of the 3x3 rule, and this is my favorite one because this is the one that gets you the biggest return on investment for headlines, is the 3 greatest human teasers. And they are curiosity, scarcity, and controversy. We are all curious. We all want to know people have an intrinsic need for closure. There's a very famous headline for a copy that says, "Do you make these mistakes in English?" And that was the headline, and it was for an English course that was probably one of the biggest selling English courses of all time. And this was many, many, many years ago in a newspaper ad, but it still is one of the best ones because people want to know what mistakes. What are these mistakes? Or when you say, for example, I couldn't believe my eyes when she did this, ... Or do you have these symptoms, or whatever. So basically what I'm saying is this, is that you use a little bit of curiosity. Get people to open up an idea that people they have this intrinsic need to close it. It's called the nested loop. It's like people want to find the end of whatever they're starting with the headline. And hopefully the end is really about your product or service or your book that you're selling at the end. But that's called curiosity. The second one is scarcity, and that's basically using an element of urgency, an element that gets people to know that there's not much left. Maybe a deadline, maybe a limited quantity, maybe time-sensitive offer, maybe a quantity-bound number of subscription, whatever the case is. Or even scarcity in a general sense, or scarcity like, for example, you're selling right now, Valentine's is coming up very soon, so right now is the time to order your Valentine's gifts, and then maybe make sure that people know that time's a ticking. So that's what scarcity means. And when people read a headline about that, they will have a greater desire to read your copy because it's made scarce. People don't know how much they want something until it's about to be taken away from them, right? So Scarcity will increase that desire. Now finally, controversy, intrigue, something maybe shocking, something that gets people riled up, maybe something that gets people to want to know more in your copy. They want to read the copy because it shook them when they've read the headline. Very, very often, and this is kind of funny because if you are on Facebook or any kind of social media, you'll notice that this is often used, and often they call it clickbait. And people say, well, clickbait is bad. Well, for articles of general nature, maybe. But when it comes to sales copy, clickbait is phenomenal. As long as you make sure that your sales copy is consistent and congruent with the clickbait or whatever you use in your headline. When people read a headline that's very interesting and it gets them to click and then they find out more about what that headline started, they will never say, oh, it's clickbait. They only say when it's clickbait because they feel they've been wrong. They feel like they've been, it's bait and switch kind of idea. You don't want to do that. You probably, a lot of people in the audience might know this. There's a very famous ad that said sex as a headline, and then after that it says, now that I have your attention, here's my offer. And you don't want to do that. I mean, it kind of probably works a little bit, but people will not buy from you again and again. It'll leave a bit of a bad taste in your mouth in a sense because they don't want to be used like that again in the future. They think, well, if he did that with his headline in his article, what is he going to do with his or her product? So be consistent. You have to be consistent and congruent with the headline, with the message in your ad. So you can be you can use some polarized idea, or you can use a little bit more of the curiosity element as well. But intrigue does work. Intrigue and shock and controversy. Something like a lot of people will use headlines that have a news topic related item to it that's currently in the news, whatever the case is. Now that might not work all the time, especially if something is hot right now as a hot topic. It might not necessarily be like that all the time, but it might be something you want to ride the coattails on. You want to take advantage of something that's very at the top of people's minds, top of mind awareness, that will cause them to want to know more about your copy. So 3 by 3, just to recap, 3 greatest human goals, 3 greatest human desires, and the 3 greatest human teasers. And just to quickly refresh you, 3 greatest human goals is to make or save time, effort, money. The 3 greatest human desires is lust, greed, and comfort. And then finally, the 3 greatest human teasers, which is curiosity,